of Delhi NCR Affairs of the Prabhat Foundation, welcome you to an exclusive of the sun at Campus Memorial. This guitar event, in association with Allen Books Company, is supported by our patron Shri Cement Limited, as I say. Much awaited conversation and launch between our author and David Vegadar, who is a renowned author and publisher himself. Allow me to introduce the Prabhat Foundation and its initiatives. The Prabhat Foundation is a Kolkata-based non-profit trust that is an organization that can also have created some of the finest literary and cultural experiences with her vision and her timeless philosophy, talent, beauty and daring, the foundation works relentlessly to create cultural capital through its activities that promote the literary and cultural assets of India. In the past 4 decades, we have grown exponentially and are now recognized as an organization that provides the best platform to writing geniuses and also a powerful medium that showcases the literary and cultural heritage of India. The foundation works across more than 40 cities to connect readers to authors, poets, and to talented musicians. Association with distinguished associates, collaborators, partners, and the Ehsas Women of India in creating land. We fully endorse the UNESCO view that cultural development has the potential to be an alternative method to promote sustainable development in poor and rural communities, and we work towards it consistently. The anthem of the Prabhat Foundation, curated by musical genius Pandit Vishwamohan Bhatt, deserves special. In the 60s and 70s. Our special guest of honor, Kabir Bedi, needs really no introduction. Kabir Bedi is one of India's most iconic international actors with a career that spans from Bollywood to Hollywood and Europe in films, television, theatre and radio, and now he's in the glorious Hall of Fame of autobiographical authors. But I'm going to make sure that you will go back remembering Neelima Dalyad had today. Thank you, Kabir. So his book, Stories I Must Tell, has received the Amazon's Most Popular Book Award. Please welcome Kabir Bedi onto the dais. Kabir, please come and take your seat. With a resounding round of applause. You will have to come and sit there. I have to continue with a little bit more about the Prabhakritan Foundation. We promote cross-cultural understanding and appreciation. We promote local artisans and their artifacts to show the appreciation to our patrons and guests by endorsing their products. We encourage all to buy local products from craftsmen in their sustainability and development. And at all our events, local food is served, which means spreading awareness about more local grown produce in the city and community. And in keeping with that spirit, I request Ms. Anandita Chatterjee, Executive Trustee of the Foundation, to please come onto the dais and felicitate And now for the most awaited moment, the book from North and GMITC Moria, along with my precious fellow Ehsas women, Archana Dania, Uma Khalid of Delhi. Is Shinjini here?
Great knowledge. Absolutely. Language.
Over to you, David. A major star across all of Europe. He starred in one of the world's most watched TV series, The Bold and the Beautiful. He acted as the villain in James Bond's film, The Octopussy. He has been a voting member of the Oscars Academy of Motion Pictures, Art and Sciences since 1982. And most significantly,
many of you here. For the rest, I hope today's session will pique your interest and make you pick up the novel. It's a big novel in every sense of the phrase. Big in achievement, big in ambition, big in terms of its canvas and size, fearless in its tackling of big ideas and the big events of history. It's a novel that succeeded superbly on many fronts in the early reviews of Born This Out. And just to tell you, as we've heard, so inferior novels don't sell well, it has achieved bestseller status within a month of publication, a rare distinction in TV. So that's exciting. As with all ambitious generation sagas, there is a strong biographical element to Swallowing the Sun.
Thank you, David, for believing in the book and believing in me and bringing this book to life. This has been a labor of love, and it has been in the making for many years, but I really got down to it in the last few years, that is the COVID years, and then we come to that possibly. But talking about my parents and how biographical this is, you know, I've always been intrigued by Mark Twain's saying that truth is stranger than fiction, mostly because obliged to be tied down to possibilities, and truth is not. And my parents' life has indeed been extraordinary in terms of transcending possibilities. And I could as well have done a biography. But I wanted to reach out not only to the head, which biographies do, but to the heart, speak to the heart. And also I poured in poetry so that it speaks to the soul. And to bring forth the pain, the struggle, the love, and much else of that very unique generation, very brave generation that I was privileged to have an insight into through my parents' storytelling. So I always felt that there was this story waiting to be told, which no one had told before. And there has been, thereafter, they have led me, rather than my leading them into different wayward ways, including the characters who have come around to me out of nowhere and created themselves. So it has been really inspired by the lived reality of my parents, but equally it has been for me an act of creation, a leap of imagination.
Maharashtra and Bombay. You are Maharashtrian but have lived outside the region for much of your life. Tell us why your Maharashtrian heritage is so important to you that it finds pride place in your book.
Outside India, let alone out of Maharashtra. I was born and brought up in Delhi, and my parents used to always say, we are now living in the north. So there was that feeling of not exile, but some element of not being in their milieu. So they created a Maharashtrian world around us as we were growing up. And I was exposed to Natya Sangeet. We used to see Marathi plays. We used to go and live in Bombay, in Sahitya Sadan. There was a kind of guest house on top, and we would see plays morning, evening for 7 days. That was the greatest holiday we could ever have. And then, of course, my father used to read poetry to us every evening from his favorite poetry book, and I brought this today, and I hope the camera can highlight it. It has been dedicated to me. So it says, for Lakshmi, electrostatic 1983 of manuscript of 1926. So he used to recite poems. He was himself a poet during the freedom struggle. He used to write for magazines like Yashwant and the young fiery poets who had this magazine. And then he had his favorite poets collection is where we grew up, and that never went out of me. Half my life I seem to have spent outside India, but Maharashtra could be taken out of me. So that's what is reflected, and I think the journey of this book pointed this out as a singular feature of this novel, and many readers have appreciated it, enjoyed that Marathi flavor.
You say you're obsessed with all your life. The poet saints in the 13th and 14th centuries, especially Muktabai. Tell us a bit about these extraordinary men and women and why they meant so much to you.
Well, I don't want to be pretentious, but I have been a spiritual seeker. And one is fascinated by the mystic saints, particularly of Maharashtra, by Kali saints and later Namdev and also Tukaram, Sant Tukaram. But Muktabai was journalist, she wanted to role model her as a woman saint who became a saint when she was a teenager. And she wrote these 41 accounts, and I was completely taken up by the sheer poetry and the mystical power of that poetry, and the surreal poem which I have picked up to be the leitmotif and the epigraph of my novel, Bungi Udai Akash.
Two of the themes in the novel are the independent struggle and strong independent women at a time when patriarchy felt more suffocating than they are today. Let's take the independent struggle first. How much of it permeated your whole family, and talk about how it influences your characters in the novel.
Bhuveshwar was very much involved in the Satyagraha movement, and much of the trajectory of actions and engagement of the characters and my protagonists, Guru and Malti in the play, in the book, is very much, the threads are taken from the actual involvement and a very passionate involvement of my father's family and my mother in the freedom struggle. But I also wanted in this novel to celebrate the unsung heroes, the ordinary Indians who participated in the freedom struggle, and they were not Gandhis or Nehrus or Balagovan Walia or even Nisa. But without them, the freedom struggle would not have led to the independence of India. So that is something that I try to show how little actions matter, how they, add up, and how they snowball into a mass movement, into a narrative change, mindset change, and of course, ultimately, like Mukta Baizant, who would have thought in 1918 that we would get independence in 1947, but it happened, and it happened because all of these people were working at it. And that's what I also wanted to bring. Many young people have asked me, why have you gone back to the freedom struggle? It's 75 years ago, and I've tried to tell them that you must not forget, and also you must realize your own potential and your own contribution to nation building today, because everything you do counts too. But one other thing I want to say, David, is that in this, there is also the aspect of how women contributed, how women participated in the freedom struggle, and Malti's own engagement in different actions, even as a 13-14-year-old girl, how she spots the preparations for the Kakori conspiracy and all of that, and later how she, as a lawyer, defends very ably and in a history-making way. She defends a revolutionary this, and even in Banaras, how she interacts with the revolutionaries there. So it was also an attempt to show the revolutionary movement, the many strands of the freedom movement that we had, and how young people were in many ways eclectic. They moved from one menu to another in terms of how they can contribute.
No, it's quite a remarkable part of the novel, the way the women you portray are so powerful. There's a poem that brings this out beautifully, that was proposed by her. Would you be able to read that for us?
Jauntily holding an in one hand, in the other with a moving lion cup I stand. The majestic tiger, half dead with fear, from his cave cautiously does peer. These mountains are mere rocks to deceive. The waves of the ocean are like trembling leaves. Recognizing myself, my name I proudly bear. I am truly self-realized and self-aware. Of a mirror I have no need, or a path free of stone and weed. Am I not complete and auspicious? Oh, of God's creatures felicitous, I have no more regard for your opinion. I well know my own strength, my own dominion. My move shift from biography to fiction was partly the discovery of these 148 love letters that were exchanged. Mostly my father. My mother was a very poor correspondent, and she was very matter of fact in her replies, and my father complained about them. But whatever, these were just the remnants of the many more that were written in 3 years when they were separated. And she had gone to Banaras and Jaipur to support him whilst he finished his law, because they were, my grandfather had sort of excommunicated my father because he was wanting to marry my mother. So these letters really then turned this whole novel into an epic love story. And I think some of you have said, in the time of the freedom struggle and in the time of cultural efflorescence. So, you know, these two elements are very much knitted into the love story. Their love and their romance with India as much as with each other, and also their love of poetry, their love of literature, English. They used to talk to each other, and I used to feel very amused when some of your predecessors who I had shared my text with turned around and said, but people don't speak like this poetically. And I said, well, you have to meet them then, because they did speak like that. So that was the kind of romance, the grand romance that some people said has not been written in some years. I tried to create through this and to explore the carnal, the spiritual, the emotional aspects of the man-woman relationship in so many ways, and the concept of Ardhanarishwar. Now, I'll just read a letter. I have used, of course, some of the letters. You didn't allow me to use too many, but there shall be another. But this is the time in the book when the two who are separated, it's a remote relationship as they will call it today, and they finally decided on their date of marriage. It was Purnima, the full moon day of May, when Lord Buddha was born. Malti promised to give Guru whatever he wanted on their wedding day. And look what Guru says. I'm delighted by your decision to give me whatever I want this Purnima. But take care, I'm greedy. And what I ask will not be only for that day, but its repercussions will last for a lifetime. You must give me a present which you have never given and will never give to anyone else. And I will give you a similar present myself. You will receive it in the very act of giving. On that day, two beings shall be united into one. So Malti then surprises him with her reply. Dearest Guru, I know that we feel frustrated by the delayed gratification of our mutual desires. Please enjoy the intensity of our longings too, and the thought that when we are eventually fulfilled in each other, we will forever cherish it. Remember Proverb 13:12 from the Bible? Hope deferred makes the heart seek, but when the desire comes, it's a tree of life.
That was really beautiful. So from the tender to things that fill your characters with rage, one of the things you lay against in the novel is the caste system. And Malati says it's something she cannot accept and condone. Talk us through this and why you are passionately in this.
So, this novel is very much about how young people at that time try to reimagine themselves as someone else from what they were born into, and reimagine the society around them. They had this opportunity of being Western educated and being exposed to liberal ideas, and at the same time there was a civilizational reawakening happening, and in that context this is very much a part of the socio-political reimagining that some of the key characters, Baba and Guru and Malti, and it also affects their lives as you will see, you've seen in the novel. So it begins right at the beginning. I mean, when Baba tries to argue with the Sarpanch that girls should be allowed to attend school with the boys, the Brahmin Sarpanch turns around and says, but that would lead to the blasphemy of a caste mishmash, because the girls there going and mixing with boys of all castes would result in maybe in intermarriages, intercaste marriages, and that is not acceptable. So from that it goes on to many other discourses on caste, and one of the points is of course that Malti and Guru are of different castes, and when they decide to get married, that becomes a barrier, and then she has to sacrifice and he has to also sacrifice in some ways, and that leads to a major disruption. Of course she reclaims her space, but in between this is there. And I just want to very quickly also refer to two other things on caste that this novel covers. One is of course how Veer Savarkar talked about the churning of the Hindu ocean and how there is one Hindu Rashtra, no caste, no other divisions, and all brothers, all of us. And she of course, Malti says, sisters all of us as well. So, but she's frustrated, as you point out, and she says that even Mahatma Gandhi has tried to campaign against the caste system, but it seems to be so encrusted, like skin itself. So there is that frustration, and then it becomes an important element in the political contestations of the time. So all of those elements have been brought out, and how the young people discuss the role of caste divisions in our society as being a weakness and allowing the British to conquer us, part of the, divide and rule. I think, I was discussing this with someone, and there are two interpretations of how I've shown it in the novel, but let me give you what my final conclusion was. That is that my characters, particularly the main characters, of course there are men who are feudal, who are patriarchs, and who are still caught up in the warp of bad tradition. There is good tradition and there is bad tradition. And then there are my main protagonists, Baba and Malti and Guru, and Kamla and Ram, who are the enlightened enlighten young people who blend the modern, who embrace the modern whilst being self-aware and proud in their Indian skin, and also evocative of their civilizational identity and role. So I think that's the combination, and I've tried to explore that area, and indeed it deserves even greater exploration, particularly in our times when we are talking no more about colonialism per se, but colonialism of the mind, and how we can surpass that, how we can transcend that. And again, I think this is a evolving, we keep on evolving as individuals, as countries, as civilizations. How do we combine the traditional with the modern? And somebody mentioned the term panoptic. And I think that's what would be the ideal equilibrium, the panoptic vision that one can have.
Okay, I think we're coming towards the end of the conversation. We'll move to the next stage of the proceeding. But I'd like to ask you how the novel actually came about. I mean, you're saying that you wrote it in the past 2 years, and it must have been germinating from that time. Tell us about the process of how you came to writing.
So, I began writing it when I was ambassador in Budapest, and I had written 100 pages, but I think at that time the conception of 3 different generations, my mother's, and my eldest daughter's generation, I was trying to encapsulate that into one novel. And that was daunting. I gave up after 100 pages. And then I told myself I'm very busy with my profession, and then I came back to India in 2018, and then COVID came. And then my husband, Hardeep, told me to pick up the pen again, or rather pick up the iPhone again, because I wrote my entire 270,000 word first draft on the iPhone. And then you came along. In August, I was just looking at all the email exchanges, and then in August, I got a response from you, a positive response from you, saying that this has so many incidents, this has so many characters, so much drama, that it has the makings of a first-rate epic saga. So that meant the world to me. And then, of course, you made some suggestions, which I hope I have lived up to all the suggestions, including dropping the Sutradhar and some of the other aspects of the original draft. And then the choosing process started. We signed the contract in January, and here we are.
Yes, indeed. So, to conclude this stage of the event, maybe you'd like to read one more poem or extract?
And my father's favorite love poem, it is called Prem Lake by the great Marathi poet Bal Kavi. And it is in the first page of this novel. This guru, the hero, writes on the sand and recites to Malti as he kind of proposes to her. And it's ode to the evening goddess. I'll first say it in Marathi, and as my father used to say it, please kind of recite and sing. मेघांचे तरी भूषपत्र धरणी अस्तांचली प्रत्यही वारिते वगलेख तुच्छदमति चित्ताची आलोचनी तिचा अक्षय लेख एक जोडा मी मग्न पारायणी.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Oh yeah, sorry.
Holding the birch bark of clouds in her hand, the glorious sunset as a perennial witness grand, her pen dipped in the red sap of my love infinite. The evening goddess writes a new missive exquisite. With enchanting shyness, her cheeks suffused, my beloved rests her lotus head on my chest bemused. She creates our love epistles mystique in the poetic language of our breaths unique. All those other lyrical outpourings, magnificent, in my heart's eyes seem so trivial and insignificant. For I am the sole, rapt and discerning reader burner in the universe of this my beloved's love letter eternal. Foundation and Sandeep and Nilma and everyone for hosting us here and organizing this, and as you said, being present at the birth and the launch of the novel. Thank you.
I'd now like to invite our special guest of honor, Mr. Kabir Bedi, to come up here and read from the book.
Right, I want to say how delighted I was to be asked to read this poem from Lakshmi's book. Because it's no ordinary book. It is an extraordinary novel. It is an epic saga, in the words of David, that covers a very important part of India's history. And it's a deep insight into the heart of India, small town India. It's a story that really is extremely human. It's a deeply human story of three girls come from a traditional Indian family and lived during this period of India's struggle for independence from the British. Each of them had a very distinct character. And what I like about the novel was the incredible tapestry of details that could only have come from somebody that lived in that milieu, learned from it, and shares it with an authenticity of the voice of true small town India that dreams big. And that touched me a lot. What also touched me was, my own parents were freedom fighters, and they also sacrificed a lot in their struggle for independence. And so the whole period of the independence struggle resonated with me. And I think, as Lakshmi said, people need to remember what it took to get India free. And it was a time when people were inspired, not only by the cause, but by each other. And they lifted themselves up. I remember there was a time in my parents' life when they didn't have money for medicine to treat my son, or to treat their son, my elder brother. And he went to the chemist and said, "Can I take medicine on credit?" And I said, "Sir, you've done enough for us. There's no charge for you." That's the kind of bonhomie camaraderie that made the freedom struggle. And that is the sense that I got from Lakshmi. And these three girls choose very different paths in life and very different personalities. But I think the heart of the book, as Lakshmi explained, is really the story of Malti. And Malti's story is the one that drives the book. And her relationship with Guru is one of the great themes in this book. And Guru is not a spiritual guru. He is actually a young revolutionary fighting the British. And so this relationship grows in the face of division of caste, divisions of social criticism, their own conservatism, and it grows with time. But it comes to a point where Guru comes to a point where he must express the totality of his love for Malati. And this is the poem that he composes for her and recites to her. Mother Malati, you are the goddess installed in my temple's sanctum sanctorum. To the exhilarating heartbeats of celestial drums, my favorite chanting and joyous limpid songs. You accept me as your devotee, and I pledge my whole life to you. My dreams, dreamt and undreamt, for you to see and turn into miracles. The nightmares those ghoulish pretenders to chase away with your trident and discus. Your love fills my cup of yearning to be great, for your sake, not for mine. I aspire to reach distant horizons and swim back to my cove, where calm inner rivers of happiness flow, meander, and rest. I will in turn shield you from the non-believers in your divinity. We will be iconoclasts in other ways too. Show them we can be and do anything. The world will turn around us and be at your feet, seeking your benediction. For night and day my votive incense burns, wrapping you in spiraling wafts of grey smoke, protecting as it churns. Its distilled holy ash I smear like shivers with beauty in surrender of my supreme self. The sweet ambrosial scent of Homer, the ritual fire, ignites our sacred desire. None dare thwart our love's purpose. None the ever-glowing lamp of love, with sword of pure luminosity, cutting through seams of darkness, his little holy tongue of flame, scorching all ill will, all blame. I pick red roses for your worship, and bear the prick, pain, and the wounds of the thorns of sorrows and the hail of arrows. The kalash pot brimming with amrit, I raise, trembling, your parted petal lips. The heavenly nectar of immortality, together sip, passing from me to you, from you to me, until infinity. Forgive me if I still seem so awkward. I am but a priest, newly initiated. I know not the mystique of these rites, but I promise to rise up, to be the best, sacrifice everything at your altar, never failing even your most implausible hopes. My Panchapran, the 5 vital life forces, drawn from cosmic springs, I consecrate to you, my Devi. Let the Spirit Divine merge my soul with yours, and our bodies entwine. O Mother Malati, let the beguiling veil of Maya, once and for all, be pierced and fall between the manifest and the truth, between the striving and the attainment, between the worshipper and the worshipped, between me and you. This is a beautiful book. I was illuminated by so many things that I read in it. prose is astonishing. The ease with which you seem to write the most delightful phrases is astonishing. I am truly in awe of what you have created, and I wish you everything I can, that all the forces may conspire to make this one of the epic novels of our time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kabirji, for bringing to life this poem, which is the soul of the novel, and you have really brought it further into rebirth, in a sense. Thank you so much for being here with us and giving this occasion I can't say, I shouldn't say glamour, fangirl, but I really would like to thank you for coming and being with us and sharing your views on the book, and thank you so much.
What can we endure? This is actually a swoon-worthy moment, but I guess I have to follow my role and move on to the next part of the program. Before we open the stage for, you have to be on stage. For a question and answer session with the author, David, would you like to come up? Yes. We're going to show a short video clip.
ऐसे लगता है कि लक्ष्मी जी ने अपने पाठक को कंधे पर बिठाकर जैसे देश की प्रेम कहानी दिखाई और दो तीनों की प्रेम कहानी एक साथ दिखा दी, ठीक वैसे ही जैसे बचपन में कभी बाबा हमें अपने कंधे पर बिठा के मेला दिखाने ले जाते हैं। तो इसके लिए मुबारकबाद देती हूँ आपको कि इतना संतुलन, कहाँ तो दिलों का प्रेम और कहाँ देश की मोहब्बत और शहीदों में जख्म और लाठियाँ। लेकिन एक सवाल जो उभरता है कि जो बाबा नाम का मुख्य किरदार है, उनकी 3 बेटी है, सुरेखा, माधुरी और एक और है कमला। 2 लड़कियों के लिए तो बाबा बिल्कुल निछावर है कि वो एम्पावर हो, बिल्कुल उनके लिए जी जान से लगे हैं और उनके अधेरे पर सोच करते हैं, कभी अंगारा रखते हैं, कभी वो उनकी दीवार बन जाते हैं, कभी ढाल बन जाते हैं, कभी सोने में एरो बन जाते हैं। लेकिन सुरेखा को अपने एक से डबल उम्र के आदमी के साथ बिठाते समय उन्होंने एक बात भी अपनी बेटी को ये नहीं कहा कि क्या कर रही हो, तुम क्यों हाँ कर रही हो। उन्होंने उसको निर्णय में जो आज़ादी देकर के उसके साथ एक काइंड ऑफ इनजस्टिस किया है, वो गले नहीं। इसका क्या है?
खुद लेखिका है तो आपकी और हमारी बातचीत चलती रहेगी कि किस तरह से इस उपन्यास को हम हिंदी में लाएंगे, और मैं मराठी में भी लाना चाहती हूँ और एक और इंडियन लैंग्वेजेस में लाना चाहती हूँ। कई बार मैंने साहित्य आज तक में मैंने एक इंटरव्यू दी थी जिसमें मैंने कहा था कि मैं इसके लिए पंचायत से भी परमिशन ली और फिर वो बच्चियाँ वो थी जो 60 लड़कों के साथ पढ़ रही थी, जैसे कि ये शुरू का चैप्टर है। तो ये जो भेदभाव आप बात कर रहे हैं, ये भाग्य और ये भी एक कहानी की जो है ट्विस्ट है।
गुलाल आकाशी तिने गिरले सूर्याची थोर नवल झाला मांस पुत्र प्रसरला विंचू पाताळासी जाय शेष माथा बंदी पाय माशी रानी हार झाली देखून मी मुक्ताई हसी। The ant flies into the sky. She swallows the sun. Another miracle. A barren woman gives birth to a son.
I was tied down and I worked from 8 to 10 hours a day on my iPhone. I think I may have to pay a price in terms of my eyes sometimes. Soon, having to write on such a small screen. But I think that 1 year of not going out anywhere, no contact with the world, allowed me to go inside myself, which is what you need to do when you're writing a novel. Otherwise, the outer world takes you over. That's something that enabled me. As Vikas Pramukh said the other day at the JLF, he said that so a virus enabled you to finish what you had started 21 years ago.
I have to say, Lakshmi, it's a beautiful book. Really loved it. Reminded me so much of my parents' stories, the generation of freedom struggle, partition, etc., which they went through. Wonderful. My question is, you're supposed to be double the size. I mean, that's what you said. That you wrote a much bigger novel. How did you edit it? I mean, because the stories are so interconnected. So maybe the question should be with David, really. How ruthless were you? How did you choose what to leave out?
So, would you like to?
No, go ahead.
First, I'll just tell you what went to read. So, 270,000 words in post or still COVID period, no publisher was willing to take. I tried to argue that suitable boy, which David had 550,000 words, but they said this is not 1993. Stake so much in a big novel. So I, on my own, had pared it down to 200,000 words when it went to David.
As a publisher, I don't think length is only consideration. I think all this stuff about short attention spans and so on is bunkum. I think a book needs to be the length it needs to be. So I think what I said to Lakshmi was, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. So it's a negotiated thing, this works, etc., etc. And that's how I think it took its final shape. You can argue with this because editing and writing novels is a very subjective subjective process. But I think each novel achieves a shape it's meant to have. And that's what I think happened.